I had a book report in middle school that I went to check the book out of the library, and I saw who checked the book out before me, and I contacted them, and I got them to write my book report. So in life, that's kind of what I do. Like, I find people that read the book already,
right?
And I talk to them, and
so you get the living book.
Yeah, I get the real book. Just take somebody to lunch, and they give me the Cliff Notes.
So welcome, man. I'm glad to have you back. It's the first podcast of the new year here, and episode 10. And today, I have somebody that ever since I started the podcast about 3 years ago, this person was always on my radar. And it's just like, as soon as I get a chance, I'm going to get Nathan Krauthamer here to get on our podcast. Real interesting guy. He's got a company, A1 Home Rentals. And so what's going on, Nate? How you doing
today?
Thanks
for having me, Pankaj. It's a pleasure. I know we tried to link up a couple times. We weren't able to, but I'm excited to be on the Karma Cast today.
Yeah, finally got you. I finally got you here. I had you on the schedule, and then the whole COVID thing hit, and I just kind of shut it down for a while, and let us get things going again.
A lot of good energy on the Karma Cast. I really like it, and I'm excited for today.
Cool. So let me just start off asking you, how'd you get into real estate? What turned you on to real estate, and why?
So I had a little bit of an interesting start in real estate. I went to Widener University. Unfortunately, they wanted to kick me off campus when I was about 19 years old, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to move off campus.
Why did they want to kick you off campus?
It's a long story, but I don't know. I was drinking with a buddy, and he drank too much. I think I rode on his back or something, and he ended up going to the hospital, and they pumped his stomach. I think I rode on his back. I can't hang with Nate in permanent marker, and then I'm like, I'll just leave campus. So I moved off campus. I rented a house. And the house was expensive, and it was worth a really little bit of money. And it kind of sparked my interest when I was living there to learn a little bit about off-campus housing.
Okay.
So that was kind of how it started, I'd say, when I was 19 and 21 years old, living off campus at Widener.
What'd you do?
So I learned about real estate when I was off campus. I was calling realtors, and I was driving around the neighborhood, and I was talking to guys that were fixing houses, and I was just trying to learn in that little neighborhood. And the neighborhood was called Sun Hill, next to Widener University. And it was that was the way that I learned, just walking to job sites and seeing who was working there, how much they were getting paid, how much they bought the house for, how much it was going to rent for. And
you went all out doing your own research.
Yeah. So I kind of did that on my own, for 2 years. And then I bought my first house when I was 21 in that neighborhood, and I lived in it with a couple of roommates. So that was how it started.
Were you still in college at the time?
I was in college, yeah.
And so you rented it out. You had started your own student housing, and you.
Yeah, I kind of did that. Yeah, I rented it out. I had 3 roommates, and I lived in one room, and then I had 3 roommates that were paying. I think they were paying $400, $450 a month, and my loan payment was $300 or $350 a month, and it was a good, successful first property that I bought, and then I was like, I want to try and recreate this and keep doing it, and then I started out just buying in that neighborhood. And I think my first 10 houses were strictly in Sun Hill next to Widener. And I remember room and board was going up about 10% a year at the time. So I was like, hopefully the school's a lot more expensive one day, and then off-campus housing is going to be more expensive because of that.
You still have those houses today?
I do. I still have them, yeah.
How long ago was that when you started?
I think I bought my first house in 2001. So it was right about 20 years ago.
20 years, 2 decades. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, and they're some of my best rentals. I mean, I really enjoy the student rentals because there's no vacancy rate on them, because when a tenant moves out, the new kids move in right away. Where some of my other properties, the tenant moves out and then they have a month or two that it sits empty.
So even the summertime, you still there's no lag.
I don't think I've ever missed a month of rent from students since I started doing it.
And then you broke into other schools too, other than Widener? Or?
No, Widener is the only school that I do it at. I mean, I broke into I started doing a lot of Section 8 housing.
Okay. Is that what was the next?
That was kind of the next progression. I'd say after students was mixing students with Section 8. And I was buying.
You have a nickname too, I heard. Section 8. They call you Section 8 Nate. Nate Section 8.
I don't know if it's a good name. I don't know if it's a good name or a bad name, but sometimes, unfortunately.
I was like, who are you talking about? Oh, Nate.
I mean, I like Section 8. I like doing a lot. I think with COVID and stuff, in the beginning there was a lot of things that were unknown in the future. A lot of people didn't know what was next, and people started valuing Section 8 housing more because they were like, the government's definitely going to pay, but maybe these tenants aren't going to pay.
Right.
So I don't know.
And then from there, you got into some other stuff. I know you had like a varied experiences with real estate. You're not just one specialty. You got like a couple.
Yeah, so I kind of got into a little bit of everything. I was doing a lot of wholesaling for a lot of years. Properties that I didn't like, I was dishing those off. I was buying a ton at auctions. Auctions were really my thing for about 10 or 15 years. The last 3 or 4 years, they've gotten really, really competitive.
Right.
But I had a good run doing auctions, and I've been really enjoying renovating warehouses, like old warehouse conversions. That's really been my thing that I've really had a passion for the last 4 or 5 years. I really get excited to bring back an old building, bring it back to life, and make it look like the original structure.
So when you do the warehouse conversion, what are you converting it into? Like your apartments or what?
I mean, it really depends on the building, but I don't do apartments. It's normally like artist studio spaces, like small businesses. I think with the internet and technology, the way things have changed the last 20 years, it's made it so a lot of my tenants are able to operate in these buildings where like 30 years ago, they had to be on 2nd and Market Street.
Okay.
But now they can be in my building and have a service business or an online retail business.
And they don't need the high visibility.
Yeah, they don't need the high visibility because it's really through the internet. And if they have a good business, then everybody finds out about them through the internet. So it's kind of like it's worked in my favor over the years.
And so how many warehouses have you done conversions in?
So I've renovated maybe like 7 warehouses about. I'm doing one right now that I'm really excited about. That's a 50-unit building in Philadelphia.
Philadelphia,
and it's nice having. I really enjoy having my tenants in these buildings because they're young professionals. Some of them move into a space that's 400 square feet, and then in 2 years, they're making $1 or $2 or $3 million a year, and they've moved out of my building, and they have 20,000 feet, and it's kind of nice to see them start in my building, and I see that happen a lot, and it's pretty cool watching that happen.
Wow, and they pay good. I mean, they pay pretty responsibly.
They all are really good tenants. I mean,
how long? What's your average lease size? Like how long do you?
So most of my leases, I mean, are 1 year leases. I don't like having them.
Even with commercial, you got 1 year.
Yeah, I don't like having them stay for a long time. A 5-year lease, there's not much of a benefit for me because if they don't want to be there, I don't want them to be there.
Right.
And if their business is failing,
it's interesting.
If their business is failing, then they're going to move anyway.
Right.
So with the 1 year lease, I'll give them a longer lease if they like ask for it or they're doing a lot of tenant build outs. But I'd rather a 1 year lease with some increases in the rents. And then if they move out, I'll have it re-rented super quickly. But I don't want them in my building if they don't want to be there. So there's not really a benefit for me for a 5-year lease at all.
Right. So I have a little bit of commercial space because it came with the apartment building that I bought. But so what do you do like when a business goes bankrupt or belly up? Does that get them out of their lease? Or?
They just move. I mean, no, but
as far as like responsibility for the rest of the...
I mean, I've never gone after them for the rest of their lease. I mean, I think if a new tenant moves in shortly after, I don't think that I'm able to double charge rent by getting the next 2 years that they owe me, plus get a new guy to move in anyway, and then he's paying me as well. So I've never had a situation that somebody has moved out. I've only had it happen like 5 or 6 times, but if they move out and they say, sorry, I'm out of here, I always have it filled up really, really quickly.
Okay.
And if they don't have any money to pay rent and their business failed, I mean, I'm going to have a hard time going after them. It's not like, they're not like class A, like, super high credit tenants.
I work with, this one guy, he opened up one building I had of commercial space. It's small, it's not that big, but I had one guy, he moved in and he was teaching martial arts. And then during COVID time, it got really hard. You know what I mean? A lot of people pulled their kids and then that kind of thing. So I worked with him and helped him. And at one point at the end, he was like, I just can't do this anymore. I'm not making anything. So I kind of, it was better off for me to like work with him and give him a really nice deal that he couldn't walk away from because he wasn't really, making a whole lot from the thing, but it was his love and his passion. It was something he was doing on the side. So it doesn't make sense for him to lose money doing something on the side like that. So I made it worthwhile where he didn't have to, he could stay.
Yeah.
And then it was a benefit to me to continue to have that tenant because then you get, for me, it seems like commercial space is like feast or famine.
Yeah.
That's like been my little bit of experience with it. But You know,
makes
and
sense.
especially now with people like I guess that's great. You've been doing good with the warehouse thing, but a lot of times with commercial space now, especially with what's going on with COVID and stuff, that's kind of been on the decline for some years now, even before COVID. You can
I had a similar experience with a tenant that I had in Chester. I was renting him about 9,000 square feet for a boxing gym, and he hosted the Golden Gloves there every year, and that was kind of how he paid his rent. His rent was very, very low. I let him keep the same rent for forever. He was supporting the neighborhood. It was really good for the city.
Right.
But he was like, Nathan, I'm just not able to do this anymore because of COVID. So he moved out. But again, he just moved out. He kind of said sorry and moved out. Like with residential tenants, I feel like you have to like evict them and like make them leave.
Right.
But commercial, they'll just move out. If their business is going poorly, I think normally they'll just say sorry and they'll move.
Right. Yeah. So I remember many years ago when on Facebook you put a post up that you wanted to take some people under your wing and kind of like show them the ropes or like, you know, do some mentorship thing or something. Did you ever do that?
I mean, I've always have a couple people, but not like anybody in particular. I mean, I would like to grab some young kids and out of high school and help them out, but it hasn't really panned out exactly the way I wanted. I had a lot of people reach out to me.
Right.
But I think a lot of people aren't willing to put in the time and effort to learn real estate. They just want to do it, but they want to play video games and they don't want to actually invest a couple hours a day in learning. You know, they might work 8 hours a day and then they get home and they just want to like bojangling around or watch TV.
Right. So if you had like a real eager and willing pupil, right? What would be like the basic? Where would you start?
I think learning how to evaluate real estate is really important to understand the value of a house. A lot of people that are getting into real estate early, they think that they have a good deal on a house, but they don't really know how to figure out what it's really worth.
And then what's your thing when it comes to evaluation?
So I think learning how to use the MLS is a really important thing for somebody that's younger and getting started, like getting a friend that's a realtor, like learn how to use the MLS, get better at it. If you think you're a little bit good, get a little better, learn how to comp houses, look at every sale on the block, look at everything within a quarter of a mile away, see if there was like a seller assist, how long it was on the market, what sold, what didn't sell, you know, what's pending. And then really get a gauge for if you find a house that you can get for $100,000, like, is it a good deal or is it not a good deal? You have to learn how much it's going to cost to fix it. Learning construction budgets is something that's really tricky. And then finding the deal is also something that's tricky. There's so many different ways to go about finding that house. So it's a lot to take in, you know, in the beginning.
So when you were getting into the wholesaling piece, like what were you doing? What was you doing sourcing your deal, you know, sourcing
at the time, most of my wholesaling was 90% from auctions.
Okay.
I was just assigning my bids from sheriff sales. It was a pretty common thing that I did.
Okay, so you didn't have to go and talk to homeowners
I didn't have
trying to sell them houses and stuff.
Exactly, yeah. So, and no one really was doing that back then. Now if you go to the auction, there's 300 people there.
Right.
So I think over time, there's always a new way to find deals. You know, right now, real estate has gone up in value a ton recently. So a lot of stuff is worth more than people think that it's worth.
Right.
So if you find a seller now that's looking to sell a house, it might be worth $200,000, but they think that it's only worth $125,000. So it could be a good opportunity just reaching out to homeowners this time around.
Do you think like with the person that you're training, you would tell them to like mark an area like you did and start there, or
that's a good point. So I did it in one little area in the beginning because I didn't really know better, and I learned that little market. But it's not that hard to learn to figure out what a house is worth anywhere.
Right.
So it's tough in one little area. You know, at the time, I mean, real estate was a lot different back then. It was like I was buying, sometimes there's houses for rent. I would call on some for rent signs and say, I'm calling about your house for sale. And they would say, it's for rent. And I'd be like, oh, I must have misread the sign. But do you want to sell it? You know, I got a couple deals like that. But looking back, I wish I learned how to use the MLS earlier, and I could evaluate properties in a bigger area, because I was stuck on this little neighborhood because I didn't know how to evaluate a property in another neighborhood.
So the MLS is your biggest tool when it comes to evaluating homes?
I think the MLS is really the biggest tool. Yeah. I mean, I use Zillow a little bit. I use like Google Earth and Google Maps, but you really need to know how to use the MLS. There's not any other way to evaluate a house. I mean, I know in some of the commercial stuff you do is a little bit different, but on a house, you know, you really need to learn the neighborhood and use the MLS to do that.
So nowadays, are you still like actively hunting houses, or what's your typical day to day at now? Because you're 20 years in the business, you've been doing a lot of success, and so what?
So I'm down. So most of my time goes into new business, I'd say. The current properties that I own, I have a great team that helps me out on the day-to-day operations. So most of my time goes into like finding a new building to buy or a new house to buy or renovating a new warehouse. If I wasn't meeting with you this morning, I would have probably gone to Philly and checked on a couple warehouses that I'm doing, met with contractors that are on the jobs, and it's fun for me to do that. And then I meet with the guys that work for me a little bit, a couple hours a week, just to go over operations, and I don't do it as much as I should.
Me too.
But I made it a goal recently, so we're doing like a Zoom call every twice a week for 30 minutes, and just to see what's going on. And because there's sometimes I go for 6 months without talking to anybody, just assuming that everything's running perfectly smooth. But there's always, we're always trying to figure it out. I mean, it's impossible to actually, once you think you have it all figured out, I mean, it's impossible. I don't know anybody that really has it figured out. Like there's always constantly changing, and there's always like new things, and like we're always putting out fires. It's like
right,
never ending.
I think the biggest thing for me too is also feeling like I'm not doing enough. Like, you know what I mean? Like I could be doing more. I think that's like a thing. It doesn't bother me as much nowadays. I don't think about it as much, but I still have that like nagging feeling of like, you got these properties, but you can do more with them.
Yeah.
You could do more with the people you have and all that thing. So I try to, it's hard finding that healthy balance between like living your life, enjoying the fruits of your labors and stuff and what you've accomplished in life. And then also like, keeping in the grind. I think.
Yeah, but I'm in the same boat as you, but I feel like with real estate, it is nice that we're able to delegate a lot of the things that we do. I mean, like some industries, if you're a lawyer, you're a doctor, and you want to make money, you have to put in hours. The time. Yeah, but with this stuff, it's a lot of work that's not super high end, like fancy stuff. It's just like property management or maintenance. We both probably used to put in a lot more hours. I used to work like 80 hours a week before I had kids, and now I'm trying to find a way to work less and have the team kind of help me.
That's what I thought from seeing you. Like you're always on the boat. You're always with your family. Like so it seems like you've kind of done what I did earlier on when I had my kids were young. I put a lot of time into like being with the family and stuff because I had that freedom.
Yeah.
So you are also like how often are you on your fishing boat?
I go fishing like once a week. I mean, I've really made it a priority for me to go fishing. I cut a lot of things out of my life for fishing. Now it's pretty much just work, family, and fishing.
Wow, it sounded like you were doing it like 2-3 times a week. So
no, I mean, if I go once a week, I go down the day before fishing, and so sometimes it turns into one day of fishing could turn into 2 or 3 days.
Right.
I mean, if I go to the canyons, it's like we leave at 3 a.m. and we get back at 9 at night. So it's a big boy trip. I'll get you out there one day, Pankaj.
Okay. And then also like because you have that like the freedom and the ability to delegate, it also gives you like the more time with your kids and your family. Feel like that's a big priority for
sure.
You now.
I think it's definitely a priority of mine, and it's something that I was working towards before I had kids. It was like in 5 years I'm going to be married with kids, and I want to try and set things up where if my health wasn't the greatest or if I have my kids running around, I want to make sure that I have a team in place that can really help me.
Right. And what's the biggest thing with the team, because it's like you can't micromanage everybody, and you kind of like macromanagement. You just kind of like look at the big picture. Is kind of more so what I do. But what are some of the challenges of dealing with a team or building a team, or how do you? Real good question here is my real key question. More so is how do you build a strong team?
That's a great question. So. I mean, it depends on what departments I'm in, in terms of managing my rentals.
Yeah, management team.
I really like somebody working for me that wants to be in real estate one day. I don't want somebody helping me on management that I don't see them owning, 10 or 20 or 30 or 50 houses one day. So I want them to come in and work for me. I did it with Steve. Steve helped me for 7 or 8 years, and now he owns like 30 houses of his own, and he helps me part-time. And now I have a new guy, Freddie, that's helping me. And, my goal is for Freddie to start buying houses soon. I don't want it to be like a dead-end job for them, and I want it to be someone that I really feel can do it,
Yeah.
And then I want them to graduate from that position in 5 or 10 years, and then they're off on their own, and then I can find a new person. And and that's for like running around, doing leasing, doing evictions, dealing with landlord-tenant problems. And that's just the way I feel about it. Some people would rather hire somebody that feels like it's more of a dead-end job for them and they're never going to make it to that next level.
Yeah.
So then they'll stay forever. But that's not really the person that I like hiring.
Right. I mean, in my business, when I look at like the employees I have, mostly the you have apartment managers and you have maintenance guys. Most of the majority of them, like this is their job, and they're like that's what they do. And there are very few people in certain categories, maybe 2 or 3 people that really are, they got that mindset.
Yeah.
Like some people just have the mindset of like when I was younger, I would think that everybody had my drive of wanting to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And then come to realize, like now in hindsight, that like some people just want a job and stability, and that's great for them, and they're better off doing that than maybe, if they don't have the business mindset, they just fail. Yeah. I've seen people jump into business that didn't have the business mindset. They were better off, keeping their 9 to 5.
Yeah,
and because of that, they just went into foreclosure and they just lost a lot of money, and then they went into a whole lot of debt that they couldn't, compensate. So.
And then you bought the house.
Huh?
And then you bought it.
No, I didn't. I'm just saying their business went into foreclosure.
Yeah.
They opened one restaurant business and that wasn't doing well. Then they were like, well, I'll do this business. And, it just was from the, pan into the fire straight up.
I think with apartment buildings, though, it's a little bit too, like finding someone to run an apartment building might be a little bit different than running around on scattered site houses. Like a lot of the people that run your buildings, I think would not be able to work for me.
Right.
It's a little bit harder doing single family houses scattered around. There's more structure at one building with a lot of units.
Right.
And it's like boom, boom, boom. This is what you're going to do. I think that somebody that's just in there for property management strictly would.
So you have your own management team that manages your properties, your rentals.
Correct. Yeah.
And so what's one of the biggest challenges you have there?
I won't say there's any really major challenges. I think just meeting with the team and motivating everybody to want to do better. Like I don't like calling for team meetings that much, and I'm not really I like just letting people go and they can do their thing. I'm not like on them with how many hours.
And that's
they're
the thing though, when you like kind of give them that space to let them go and do their thing. Some people actually work, and some people kind of take advantage of that too and just kind of do their own thing. You know what I mean?
True.
So like, how do you?
Yeah, that's definitely one of the challenges. I mean, I think there's I don't know. I mean, I feel like I haven't really found the answer to that yet because everybody's out doing their own thing.
But you feel you've been good in that area, that we have people that are kind of, they have their self-motivators and they kind of just, they take care of their responsibilities.
I guess if I look at the big picture and see how things are running, I mean, they're running pretty well.
Right.
I want to have these meetings with everybody now to make things run a little bit smoother. But I'm still going to give them the freedom to do kind of whatever they want. And I just want to look at the big picture and make sure that things are going the way that they need to go.
Do you have a head overall manager of everything kind of thing that comes kind of assists you, or are you the one?
No, so it's me. So it's just me, and then I have 3 people that work for me full time that don't swing a hammer or have tools. One person just in the office full time, and then I have Steve and Freddie running around, just dealing with the day-to-day stuff and overseeing the maintenance guys.
Right. Okay. Great. So what's next for you? Today you were looking into a whole new venture. This morning, right? You said it's the first time you started. You go ahead. I'll let you tell it.
This morning, my buddy Steve saw this a storage bin for auction in New York. We were looking to maybe buy it. There was like some expensive paintings. I thought it was kind of cool, but again, I didn't do it. I feel like real estate is all that I've ever done.
Yeah.
I've never I've looked into other ventures before, but I've never done anything. I've never really.
Now the thing with the storage bins is, I heard this a long time ago. Is somebody said that it is real estate. You know what I mean? But you're getting like more money per square foot than you do even in an apartment. So I don't know. I never really looked deep into it.
I don't know that much about storage. I don't know much about storage like facilities. I know a lot of people like public storage, and it seems like a great business. I mean, this was just like an auction for a 12 by 10 storage product that someone left in the storage bin.
Oh, so it's more so the more stuff that's in the storage. It's the contents.
It sold for $250,000 this morning.
And what were the contents? Art
There's
stuff?
like paintings, a lot of art. Yeah.
Oh, okay,
Like
so I totally misread. I thought it was. I didn't get a chance to look at what you sent me. So I thought it was actually the storage units that were being sold.
I'm sure it'll make the news because $250,000 is a lot for a little 10 by 12 storage bin.
Yeah, somebody must have known what that stuff was worth.
Yeah, there was some guy had paintings in there, and there was 21 paintings that sold for $250 million in the last year from this artist. But I don't know.
Okay, so it's just like it was just a thing that just popped in. Not nothing that you really had researched like you did with the houses. So now what's next really? Just kind of the same thing, or do you feel like something new is on the horizon for you?
So I recently just bought a big building in Philly.
The same one that you were talking about earlier, or this different?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I mean,
you said the 50 unit.
No, that one's under construction. So I just 2 weeks ago, I just bought a 257,000 square foot building.
257,000.
Yeah, it's really big. So I need to figure out what to do with it. I had it under contract for 2 years, and I didn't want to buy it without buying the lot across the street. But luckily, we were able to get the lot across the street, and then we feel like the value went up a lot in the last couple of years since we had it under contract. So we don't know if we're going to make it artist studios or if we're going to make it apartments.
How did you drag out the contract for 2 years?
We were able to. We gave a little bit of a non-refundable deposit.
Okay.
And I thought it was a good play because we were able to buy a year with $100,000, an extra year.
Yeah.
So I wanted to do that and weigh out what happens with COVID, and then real estate would have guessed real estate values would have gone up so much. So
is the seller happy still after 2 years?
I don't know if they wanted to sell it to us anymore. I feel like
exactly.
I feel like we ended up buying it the last day, and I think they might have rather just us not bought it, but I'm not sure
because the property values have went up in the last 2 years. Yeah, right?
But we don't know what we're going to do.
What did you need the lot for?
We wanted the lot for parking because the building doesn't have parking.
Exactly.
So we don't know what we're going to do there. We want to make it creative, artist studio spaces. But maybe it's going to be apartments, or maybe we're going to sell it. It's kind of one of the three.
What part of the city is this?
It's in Allegheny West.
Okay.
21st and Allegheny.
Okay.
So we'll see. I'm excited about it though.
Yeah, that's great. Congratulations. That's a lot of space you got to do something with.
It's a big building. It's the biggest building I've ever bought by far.
Wow. That's amazing.
It's not that amazing yet since we haven't done anything.
What did it trade for?
We bought it for 4.2.
Okay. And you had partners come in to raise the money for that, or like
right now it's just me and my one partner Leo.
Yeah.
And I think we might need to bring in some more partners if we're going to develop the whole project.
Right.
So we've got a lot of we're throwing a lot of things at the wall right now, and we're going to see what sticks, and hopefully something sticks.
That's amazing. So is any maybe like warehouses would also be great if they're in the right location to create like student housing too, right?
I mean, this could maybe work for some sort of like workforce housing, but I think student housing, it's not really the right neighborhood for it.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying if you get like a warehouse like in a good proximity for like a big school or something like that.
Yeah, it could work.
Those are pretty, simple to convert.
Yeah, I like student housing. It would be hard to find something right next to a university, but it could happen.
Yeah. So what keeps you going? What lights your fire these days?
So for me, it gets. I think I told you earlier, but it's really the work, family, and fishing are my three things.
Work, family,
that take up most of my day, and I enjoy working. I've always enjoyed working. Like when I wake up in the morning, and it's time to go to a project at 9 a.m. Like I like it. I've always liked it. A lot of people wake up and they're like, "Oh man, I have to go to work again," and it's nice having that feeling to wake up and to be excited about whatever's next. There's always going to be obstacles during the day, and there's always going to be things that are going bad, and I just try and deal with them in a way that it doesn't bother me. Being a landlord, me and you, like there's a couple days a week that there's just bad things that happen, and you can't let it bother you, or else you're just going to be miserable all the time.
Right. Yeah. So how do you create that buffer? Like, what do? You just kind of like, build skin thicker skin over time, right? You just kind of.
I think kind of thicker skin might be the right word. I mean, just like, being content, being happy with where you're at, not getting mad easily. if you have a short temper, it might not be the business for you, because there's going to be people that like don't pay you rent. And
people try to take advantage of you every which way.
All day. They don't pay you rent, and then they want you to come fix their toilet,
Yeah.
And then it's like they didn't pay 4 months in rent, and they want you to fix their toilet. You can't get mad at them for that. You can't let that like ruin your day. You have to just go fix their toilet, and then like.
Yeah. I had somebody who did, during months ago, during COVID, they didn't pay rent for a long time, and they started a fire in the apartment. And we had to like give them another appliance. You know what I mean? I was just like, find the crappiest appliance you could buy to give it to them.
That's pretty funny.
It was. But
that's funny.
So man, really appreciate your time coming on. You've got so much experience with like student housing, with the wholesaling, with the warehouses, and I think also for you, like, are you a guy like, for me, I can't take monotony. I can't take the same old. So like new projects, they like keep your fire lit too as well. Like having that newness, having that freshness, or.
I mean, I like that. I like new stuff. I was talking to somebody earlier today about like auctions, and I like the unknown. What's next, and I like doing new projects and the excitement of developing them and figuring it out.
I think that's also key for people like especially like yourself, is the unknown, like embracing the unknown. I think most people are scared shitless of the unknown.
I would agree with that. I think most people are scared. I mean,
that's why they're comfortable in that 9 to 5 or whatever it is, because it's like they just want to know. Like the fear of the unknown is like it drives, unless people. But the other thing is you have so much experience over the years of dealing with certain problems, so that they kind of come. And they're able to bounce off because it will be handled somehow or other. Yeah. Too.
So it's interesting you said the fear of the unknown. So like some of my best projects I've done, I've tried to find people to tell me that they were good deals. So I've gotten some properties under contract, and I'm like, I'm going to ask 20 of my friends to see what they think about this. And they all say that they don't like it, and they tell me that I'm crazy.
Right. I did that to my father a long time ago.
Yeah, they all tell me I'm crazy, and then it turns out to be one of my best deals every time.
Right.
So the ones that everybody likes, that are just like more cookie cutter, people like them, and they say go do it. But the ones that I think outside the box a little bit, so I think you have to be a little bit crazy to do some of these warehouses or these big apartment buildings that you do. Like, but I don't know.
The upside is, but everybody wants it nice and clean, and we're going in and we're buying distressed properties that have been like, maintenance has been deferred, and you know what I mean. It just looks like. But
that's true. Yeah.
But you go in there and fix it up over a period of time, and it creates more value, and you're helping a community that's been, that's just like, more crime and all that. You're working to help create a more stable place for people that are workforce housing, that they don't have to deal with like a lot of the crime and all that kind of stuff. Yeah,
no, I agree. I think identifying a problem on a lot of these properties that I've bought in the past, like if I can't figure out what's wrong, then it means that it's probably not the property for me. So normally there's like some distress in some way, and I'm able to try and fix the problem. I mean, now, who knows? Everything's worth so much money now, it's kind of weird. Yeah. But for 15 or 20 years, if I couldn't identify a problem, then I normally wouldn't have been buying the property, even gone to look at it if I couldn't figure out what's wrong. Yeah. So last question here. You told me a while back that you don't really read books. And so like everything in you, as far as your work and your experience with real estate and stuff like that, it's all just stuff that you learned through your life experience, correct? That's correct. I mean, through life experience, through like conversations like this, I really enjoy networking and hanging out with other people, other real estate guys. So I learned pretty well talking to people and experiences and seeing what somebody else did that worked, or something that I did that worked, or something that didn't work. But like reading is just not really my style. I'm not that good at reading. I wasn't that good in school. I had a book report in middle school that I went to check the book out of the library, and I saw who checked the book out before me, and I contacted them, and I got them to write my book report. So in life, that's kind of what I do. Like I find people that read the book already, right? And I talk to them, and so you get the living book. Yeah, I get the real book. Just take somebody to lunch, and they give me the Cliff Notes. Oh, right, exactly. I think that's great. It's like meeting the mentors, meeting the people who got the real experience in life, having that real connection, and getting that way is like, it's incredible.
So it's been great, man. Great
Thanks a lot
talking
for
to
having
you.
me. I love
I
being
can't
on the
believe we
show.
didn't crack any jokes, though. You're
I
like
know,
one of the
sorry.
funniest guys I know, man.
Sorry, I didn't do any jokes then. Sorry.
But great value, great information.
Thanks for having me, Pankaj.
And thanks for sharing your experience with us.
Thank you.